Well, happy Monday night, everybody. How's all my friends doing in Dixie Belle Paint Land? We're here in the Bowtie Treasure Studio. I'm Aaron, I'm a Dixie Belle content creator. I'm here in Pensacola, Florida. Where are you from? Why don't you let us know in the comments? And if you're watching on replay, let us know as well. Here's the before picture of what I'm working on tonight. You should be able to find these kinds of buffets pretty easily out there. There's a lot of them. This is kind of a French Provincial style, but it's a nice traditional look, and just want to give it more of a classy, stable design. So that's what we're doing. I will tell you so far, give you a little bit of heads up on where we are. This right here, I had some ideas for where I wanted to go with this, and it didn't really work out. Not bad, but just changed my mind. But I was experimenting with moonshine metallics. This is Caribbean, and on the left is aubergine. And actually, you know what I learned tonight? I learned that I've been saying aubergine wrong the whole time. I asked Google, I looked it up on the internet, and I had this French guy on YouTube even pronounce it, but I didn't even realize that aubergine was also eggplant. So who knew? I learned something today. So I've been saying aubergine all this time, probably because I'm near Alabama and Auburn plays, and that's how they spell their name, but it's aubergine. How about that? Some high-tech falutin language for you there. So I mixed 2 parts aubergine and 1 part Caribbean moonshine metallics, and it really gave my piece a nice light hint of a metallic. It's a really lovely color, but there's my mixture. I use a little mixing cup so I can keep it straight. And then I use a little hand mixer that I got off Amazon just to mix it up. Now I didn't totally mix it because I wanted the 2 colors to swirl a little bit. But I just wanted to tell you where I am on this piece right now. So that's this is the aubergine and Caribbean moonshine metallics. So if you want a unique color combination, this is kind of a fun one to try, and mixing your moonshine metallics with chalk mineral paint works really well. But I'm going to go a little different direction with this, but I just wanted you to know what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to mostly do blending tonight. So the 2 colors that I pulled out for tonight, I actually had Midnight Sky, but I felt like Midnight Sky and Caviar were pretty much almost the same thing. So I'm going to go with Bunker Hill Blue and Caviar. So Caviar will be the dark color, and I'm going to use that for the outer edges, and then we'll use Bunker Hill Blue in the middle. Sometimes, just to give you some things that I like to do, this is a color card, if you will. The advantage that it really helps me with is value. So for example, you can see here, Caviar, Bunker Hill Blue, there's a difference in value. But if I go back to something like, okay, this is in the navy. You can see as far as value goes, in the navy and Caviar are very close. I wanted a little bit more difference because if I'm going to blend, I want the 2 to work together on that. So this is a really handy, if you do a lot of Dixie Belle painting and colors, getting one of these card decks is really essential, and you get that using the link in the description of this live and also on Dixie Belle's website. And you could probably see if one of your local retailers even carries them. That's always a good thing to try. All right, but to go a step further, several years ago, I found this tall old bookshelf, and I cut all the rungs. I unscrewed it all apart, and I cut all these, and I almost made one of these posts for every color. But the beauty of the post is that I can come back and top coat it. So you can see how your color might look with satin or flat. Maybe you could even do flat and satin just to see. And I use these a lot of times when I'm working with customers. I can say, hey, this one is sawmill gravy. I can say, this is what your sawmill gravy looks like with the top coat. Or maybe for you, it might be a wax type scenario. So, because that's not what you're not gonna get that with these cards. These are more of just a flat color, but they're very valuable for checking value and tone. But when you want to show what it looks like, so getting some kind of, you could even do something like that with maybe a paint stick. You can paint maybe a color all the way across and do satin, flat, and wax, just so you can show those off. So if you do a lot of painting, get creative so you can show those off. But I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of how I work and pick my colors. And sure enough, of course, I was missing. I see Donna, Jessica, Tammy, good to see you, Shelly. Many people saying hi, I appreciate that. So I'll try and do my best to keep up with comments, but if I miss them, Dixie Belle's here to help us answer any product questions as well. So let's get to it. This is the mixing container I showed. You can even see the swirling colors there. The great thing about something like this that has a lid is these colors keep for a long time, and it works really well when you're mixing your own custom colors. If you haven't used Dixie Belle's color mixer, I encourage you to check that out sometime. Get a little adventurous with some colors that maybe you haven't. You've got a little bit of extra here and there. That works out really well. Brush wise, when you're blending, and if you go to my YouTube channel, Bowtie Treasures YouTube channel, you can always look at my blending channel or a playlist. I have a lot of videos on blending, and I pretty much stick to the same tips usually every time. But you're probably, for a project like this, you might see yourself needing at least 2 brushes, one for each color, and then figure out a brush for blending. Now you'll see some people using things like the best dang brush. The disadvantage for me personally in my blending style, I don't like the flat blunt edge as much. You can almost just sit it on top. I like more of a fanned approach. Now this is an old oval small that I have, so over time it's gotten almost fanned out. Or you might try something a little larger if you have a big project, flat, large. Another one you could do if you have a smaller space, I really like the Belle brush. This is great for blending too. So you just need to find what's comfortable. Maybe after a little practice, you'll kind of get a hang of which brush works for your size project. Now this is a pretty large surface. From here to here, we're probably talking over 2 feet or about 2 feet. So a little small Belle brush probably isn't going to do it for us tonight. So that's where I'm recommending something a little larger. You could probably even mix with a mini. It gives you a nice space. And you've got to have a misting bottle, and you can get that on Dixie Belle's website as well. So it just depends on your style, but those are some things that you'll see. I've featured mixing with 1-inch brush before. So just depends on the size of the space, you can make it work. So the key is a little bit less about the brush and more about the pressure and the misting. So I'll try and talk about that a little bit today. So like I said, I've got 2 brushes going. I do like to mist my brushes quickly, just to help them not superly absorb the paint as we go. So, all right, so the next thing you need to do is just overall, just plan on where you're gonna go with your color. Have everything ready to go because you don't wanna miss something here. So this has only been 1 coat of that mix I talked about earlier, and it served as a good base. Usually when I'm mixing or doing blending, sometimes you need to do it twice, but it does come down to what was the first color. There's 2 ways that I describe how you can put the paint down. One, and by the way, I really don't mind if some of the original metallic comes through. I don't think that'll be the end of the world. It'll give it a little extra depth, but we'll see how it turns out. So there's 2 ways to blend. You can put one color down, put another color down, and then meet in the middle. Or you can put one color down and then put paint over it and blend it, or mix it. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just putting a quick coat, because you got to work quick when you're blending. You'll watch me. I want to keep that mist going because this is a large square foot, if you will. It's not like we're going to be mixing maybe on a drawer front, which would be smaller. But I got to work. The larger the space, the faster you got to work, because one of the key principles to blending is keep it wet, and that's hard to do on a large surface. Okay, so it's all 1 coat. Now we're going to go in with our black. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to focus, I'm going to mist again. I want to focus on the outer edges. So when I'm putting this down, you see how I'm painting on top of the blue as opposed to painting black and meeting the other color in the middle. This is just a different way. But this does feel like blending because I'm blending two colors together. We might even call it mixing. You see, I'm just roughly just like putting the color, doing a rough blend. And I'm just going to slowly vignette out. I really didn't have a plan per se when I started this, other than this kind of start at the top, and at some point you got to stop that and you got to blend. So I'm going to go back to the, where did it go? I'm going to use this is the flat large, so nice and large. And this is one of my 3 top principles, and that is soft touch. And that's just really light pressure. If you're going to use something like the best dang brush, you're probably going to push a little harder. You just can't be soft with the best dang brush as much as you can. So just look how wispy and soft. You're trying to feather and fade out any edges. Here's that wet rag. I'm disguising any brush strokes. Light touch will also feather your brush, your paint, and it'll dry flawlessly. So just like 5%, 3%, that's it. And so it just fades naturally down. Now what I'd like to do, and this is the part where it's not the end of the world if you're not 100% convinced it's the way to go. Meaning if you don't like it, just paint over it. It's not going to really hurt you much. I'm going to mist down below again and make sure I got the right brush. This is the part where it could be drying on you a little bit. I'm just going to do a quick touch coat just to make sure the paint down here is wet. Don't put much down. I'm doing this just to keep it wet. Make sure you guys can see. Okay, just kind of re-checking. I'd misted real quick. So just a light coat of paint, that's all. Back to my black. Do you prefer misting brush on furniture when blending? Totally. Totally do. Because it would be, if I didn't use a misting brush, then I wouldn't really be using my principle of keep it wet, because your paint's drying. As soon as you put that paint down, it's starting to dry. So I'm using Caviar right now to actually mix into the Bunker Hill Blue, just like I did on the top. And this is where you decide how far up or into your previous work you did. And I'm just, like I said, making this up as far as use your gut feeling of how much you want to cover or not cover. I think that's probably high enough. So now I'm just doing a rough mix, just kind of mixing the two colors together, back and forth, up and down. Okay. And then we're back to we're just going to call it your large blending brush, whatever blending brush you decide to choose. And I'm going to start here at the blending point. If I go low, I'm going to pick up a lot of those dark colors, and I don't want those yet. Now in here should be original color. You don't really need to go up there. Soft. You could even almost just whisper, feather touch. Describe it however you want. I'm just looking for any kind of, and you may have to move your lighting around just so that you can see if you're getting a nice consistent blend. And now I'm into the darker color, which I'm just feathering and fine tuning any of my touches here. And I'm not taking this dark brush back up into light because I'm already happy with how that looks. And now you want to wipe off that excess. I typically then advise that you stop working on it and let it dry. See, like right here, do you see how it's kind of dark? It's just different drying stages. So you just need to let that dry And if you want to say, well, let me see how this dries before I continue, then maybe put your brushes in large Ziploc bags, because you don't want to go wash this out and you come back because it's going to be super wet. Just keep it, if you need to see how this is going to work before you do the rest. But I have faith that this is based on previous technique, this is going to be fine. One of the things to watch out for though, if I start working here and I mist right here, that mist is going to get on that side. So sometimes what you want to do is kind of work around your project so that you're not getting, or just don't mist. You can mist your brush, that's another option. Okay. So I'm going to take my own advice and not work on the corner while the other side's dry. Let's kind of work to the front a little bit and see how this technique is going to work on, move you guys around. See how it's going to work on this. I really like to accentuate this. If I need to, I'll also come back maybe even with a different color and even lighten this up, but we'll see how that goes. I haven't figured out how I'm doing blending across, but I really would like to put the lighter color in the darker, lighter in the middle, darker on that, and really help that bend stand out. So let's see how this is going to work. So I will go ahead and mist this right panel, and we'll see how this goes tonight. Everybody ready for Thanksgiving? It's so almost here. The thing that's getting me right now is that here in Pensacola, Florida, it's usually not too cold, and the last 2 days have been what I consider cold. Like I had my hoodie on before my live, but I'm like, hey, I don't want to wear my hoodie during my live, but my studio is kind of a converted porch. So it's not super airtight. It gets a little, I couldn't find my heater a while ago, but yeah, we're at that point where I'm like looking for my heater in my studio here in Pensacola, Florida. Crazy. Now I will need to come back, by the way, and pull these drawers out and paint them this whatever color I'm using. But it won't be hard to replicate that because it'll probably be mostly caviar around there. But I'll do that off camera. So let's stop right there. You know, remember we talked about smaller. This is much smaller than the other side, right? So this is a little bit more manageable. Okay, so, and I will do this corner later on. So I'm going to focus on putting the caviar around the edges. Remember the word vignette I used a while ago? That's pretty much what we're doing, is creating somewhat of a vignette. But this caviar is mixing with the Bunker Hill blue, so it's not straight caviar. If you want straight caviar, you're going to have to paint caviar, then paint Bunker Hill blue in the middle, and that works too. It just depends on what you want. Okay, you see that little circle? All right, you see I'm kind of just wisping around. I've done some pieces a little bit like this where they have kind of that glow, but sometimes the glow is achieved by me putting a lighter color and a darker color. This one, it's more like the darker colors making the lighter color stand out. Okay, so just light touch. And if you need to, I'm gonna do it just for the sake of, I feel like I got too much. My oval got a little messed up. So you see how I just put a little bit extra in there. I was on Pinterest. If you're on Pinterest, you can definitely go look up my channel. I saw one of my pieces the other day that had a little bit of this look. I'm not sure if that's where I got the idea, but it was a good, strong look. Okay, nice effect. And that, the French Provincial hardware is gold, and it's really gonna just scream out of that. I like doing that technique quite a bit. light touch, keep it simple. Set that down. We're just continue to work our way down. And if you have any questions about my technique, maybe I'm not, something's not quite clicking in your mind and I can explain it better, just let me know. But like I said, if you go over to YouTube and look at my playlist, you'll see that I've got a few other blending demonstrations, big and small. What I mean by that is dressers, buffets, blended on jewelry boxes, and really try to make sure that it's simple and for me to communicate. If you've ever used moonshine metallics on your project, we always like to see those. I just couldn't wrap my mind around how I wanted to use the moonshine metallics, and blending just really screamed as being probably my best direction. If you saw my live with Leah Kendrick, probably 2-3 weeks ago, I did a technique where I kind of did a dry brush layer, and I was kind of thinking of going that direction, but alas, the blending screamed at me and said, do this. So that's what we were doing. Donna says, are you heavy with paint? I would say no. Just a nice basic coat. It's not the end of the world if you are a little bit heavy, as long as you smooth it out. What I mean by that, so I'm about to put more paint down, right? So I would say this could be considered heavy by some. So 2 coats of paint on top of each other. But the way you're fine tuning it, you won't see, the paint won't be left heavy. I definitely would recommend having more paint than not, just because you can't blend with no paint. At least I can. If you can do it, good for you. I think I'm actually going to go into the details a little bit with the Caviar. I want this center panel to pop. So you see I'm kind of painting in there. Now the top of the buffet probably won't be Caviar. I'll keep that more midnight sky. I'm sorry, Bunker Hill blue. Yeah, that's working well. And I'm going to come in just a little bit into the raised panel, just a tad. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our blending brush. And just, this is where, if you do have heavy-handed, this brush right here will soften it out. Let me just go over the blue real quick. Light pressure, 5%, 3%. I don't know how to really describe the percent. If the paint's sticky, it's not wet enough. So if it's sticky, you didn't put enough paint on, or you didn't mist. You've got to decide which way you want to go with that, because misting may not be what you need. If you've got enough paint, you don't need to mist. Misting compensates for not enough paint. Slight hand. And I didn't even go up here because I didn't want to, you don't want to touch any of that. That's all sticky and wet. Just be very careful. I don't know if you can tell right now, this part has not been done. And so I think what I'd like to do is get to the point where this part right here at the very bottom is Caviar, and then we'll come up highlight. So what I'm working on right now is right here. And let's just kind of come all the way across. I'll try and stay all the way. I'm not going to mist. I'm going to rely on my extra bit of paint. So I'm going to go in there with Bunker Hill blue. I use a lot of satin top coat mostly, and I usually know that at that point, that's going to richen. It's going to what I'm trying to say, deepen a color. It's going to bring out the richness of a color. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm going to go ahead and mist this little bit. I'm going to stop about right there. And I'll finish the left side later on. I just need to get to the middle. Okay, so this is now ready for caviar. So I'm going to go heavy-handed. Extra with the black. The feet I'll do later because it's part of the middle right post. So you see dark right there. And it's okay if I go over this top section because it's mostly all caviar. So this is where you have to determine, and I'm probably going to go to about the first cabinet. About right there. And I'm going to start blending that out. Look, I'm holding all my brushes. Okay, light hand, just give it a slight touch. And this is where I want to blend right there. There's a lot of pieces and things moving right now, so you have to, I'm not sure if the camera is even catching it very well, but right here is about where it's blending to pure color. And that's what I'll take up all the way. I think I need to go a little bit more. I'm going to put a little mist right there. And I'm glad I brought this up because I want this to go all the way up the drawers, so I need to come at least this far. Keep that mixing brush kind of clean as much as you can. Good. And if you need to at some point, you can always come back in it and give it a little bit more aubergine, wow, Bunker Hill blue. I'm gonna get those colors straight eventually. So at some point you may just have to say, okay, I can't keep going because I'm gonna be working on top of myself, and that's fine. You just, you never know sometimes when that's gonna be. Just use discernment on, if you think you're gonna mess your work up, it would be best to leave the right side alone and come back later so that it's not getting messed up, but it's really up to you how that's gonna work. Right now I'm going with the idea that all these middle posts are gonna be caviar, and keeping that nice and basic instead of blended is gonna help me. Right now I just got caviar on my brush. There's gonna be some areas on this project where the drawers or the cabinets might stick a little bit, so I might introduce a little bit of light distressing to account for that. I don't prefer to do that all the time, but it does happen sometimes, and this might be a piece that I do that on. So we just finished painting the whole thing Bunker Hill blue, just like other scenarios. Now we're going to go back in with our shading, and I'll probably, maybe this will be the only drawer I do for now. You see how far I'm going? Just in that right there. I want to match what I did down below. And by the way, because I did, if you get misting where you don't want it, just leave it. Let it dry naturally. Okay, you see I'm zigzagging, or I call them almost infinity symbols, like you're doing this. That's kind of mixing. It's like a mixer, putting a mixer on your paint. If you want to, go up and down a little bit, but finish in the same direction as the rest of the paint. Very light pressure. This is going to smooth out that paint, and that's what I'm looking for. And that's what I'll do all the way up. So I got to do this left side real quick. See that nice glow in the middle. Hardware will go here and it'll look fantastic. So one last, again, keep your brush strokes going the same direction. Very, like 1% pressure, that's it. And I'll leave it pulled out like that right now. And that will do it. The colors in here are very extra as far as vividness, but it will look very bright once I top coat it and stage this out in my staging area, but very rich, very ritzy and classy. One thing I'm probably going to do as well is right here, this little flourish, I'm gonna accent with gold gilding wax. And I may touch some corners with gilding wax as well. So we're gonna start off with misting. And we'll probably knock this out. I really do like the metallic, by the way. I keep going back to that, but I probably could have put some metallic in the paint I was working with, but one thing about, you don't see people using moonshine metallics a lot. I think it's a great paint medium, but you have to understand that moonshine metallic is naturally a thinner paint. So it would be really great sprayed, because you're going to get a nice brush stroke free finish. But if you're going to literally paint something with moonshine metallics like this piece with a brush, you might need 2 to 3 coats to get a really consistent finish. So it has some finicky qualities about it, but it totally has its place in the chalk paint world. And that's one reason why I thought I'd give it a try on this. If I hadn't switched to a blending technique, I would have kept it. So I'll try and feature it again here in the near future, just because I feel like I gave up. I didn't really give up, I just didn't finish this project with it. I'm doing a little misting because the Caviar has a lot of pigment, so it's a little thicker, and I put it on a little too thick. But I'm spreading that out and doing my pre-mix here. See how fast I'm moving? Probably a little bit out of necessity, but that's normally how I work. But working quick counters that drying time. Let's put that paint to the side, get my large brush out. Light hand. And I probably should start down here. See how I'm going side to side? You don't always have to go the same direction. You can go up and down. You can even like swoop a vignette if you want. I usually do like to come back and go the same direction on all of it. So here's where probably every coat get a little lighter. See, I'm barely just feather touching this just to get the brush strokes going. If you can get those brush strokes going in the same way, it's gonna look much more, it's gonna look a lot sooner. Looks like I need to fix something right here. Got a little extra Caviar. Now, because I used enough paint, I still got some workability here. Better to fix it now. Just trying to make sure that I don't have any weird streaks. You're trying to defy brush strokes. Now we're going to go back down just like 0.5% of pressure just to get the brush strokes. Looking great. I'm going to miss the bottom because I need to keep that wet. Again, if you're watching on replay, let me know if you have, let me and Dixie Belle know if you have any questions. Love for you to use that link that's in the description to find a retailer in your area. You might even, if you've not done blending before, you might even find a retailer who has some classes that can teach it too. If for some reason you can't seem to get a hang of it, don't give up. Sometimes I might kind of feel like making it look easy, but I've probably been blending, doing projects for, I started in 2016, but I've probably been blending since 2017, different products and things like that. But you get those few techniques down, you'll get it. And blending does give you the ability to keep a kind of a eye-catching, classy look. Okay, so there you go. I just slapped some Caviar on it. I think I'm getting caught up in my cord here, hang on. And now we're gonna go in there. This is where you want to, you see how my rag's got a lot of paint on it? Could do some extra cleaning on here. And let's work that main area right there. Back and forth, up and down. Curve it if you want. Because all in all, when you're done, you're going to smooth out all those brush strokes. You're just mixing those two colors together. Because it's not 100% Caviar, nor is it 100% Bunker Hill Blue. All right, so back to light pressure. Get all my brush strokes going in the same direction. Light touch, smooth it out, and call it a day. So things are still happening in here, drawing at different stages. If for any reason I don't like, okay, I was too low or too high, chances are people can't check both sides to each other, but if I needed to, there's only two colors here. It wouldn't be the end of the world to repaint it. I hope this was helpful to you. Always here to answer questions. Like I said, check out my YouTube channel. If there's something that you're missing or you have some questions on, don't hesitate to let me know or ask Dixie Bells. They can point you in the right direction as well. But get some good brushes, some patience, get the products you need. You got this, and I hope I help make it look a little easier, because it is. It really isn't too hard. Also, one quick reminder, keep in mind that I used two colors that were close together. If I used white and black, that'd be a nightmare. Probably really tough to hide any imperfections. There are probably a lot of imperfections here, but because the colors are so close, you probably won't notice, because I'm going to put, let me just show you. I'm going to put some fantastic hardware on there, and it's going to distract from anything that I may have messed up. I'm not aiming for perfection, right? Anyways, I'm really excited to get it done. All right, I'm Aaron here in the Bowtie Treasure Studio. Thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight. Let others know if they need some blending help, this is a good place to give them a try. All right, we'll see you guys until next time. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Aaron here in the Bowtie Treasure Studio. Stay awesome, be creative, and until next time, I'll see y'all later. Take care.
That's the end of the show. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell before you go. Bye.